Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Meet Me in Napa podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Jackson. I'm so delighted that you guys are here to join me for another episode. I have a very, very special guest here today, Representative Congressman Mike Thompson. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. This really means a lot to me on my journey and what I'm doing here in Napa Valley. And you're such a staple and a figure out here. And so just thank you for coming on, and thank you for feeling that this was important enough for you to come. I'm really excited.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited to do it.
I'm really excited. So you represent the 4th District of California, and that is Napa Valley, Santa Rosa, I believe.
It's part of Sonoma County. Okay. Right now, it's Santa Rosa all the way down through the Sonoma Valley, Cotati, Pengrove, Rohnert Park, and a little piece of Petaluma. All of Napa, all of Lake, part of Solano, and everything in Yolo County except West Sacramento.
Okay.
Now it's going to change because the voters passed Proposition 50.
Right.
So the Sonoma County portion of the district will change. It'll be Sonoma, not the entire Sonoma Valley, but the town of Sonoma, Rohnert Park, Pengrove, Cotati, and a bigger part of Petaluma, about half the town of Petaluma now. Nothing else in Solano County, all of Napa, a little bit of Lake County, but we lose most of Lake County. So it'll be a part of Cobb, Middletown, part of Hidden Valley Lake, and then none of Solano County, and everything north of the highway in Yolo County, all of Colusa, all of Yuba, all of Sutter, a piece of Sacramento, and a piece of Placer County.
Wow, you had that all memorized.
Well, it's a big district.
It is.
About 47% new from what I represent now.
Okay.
One of the good things is, in the past, I've represented parts of the new district. I was elected to and represented all of Colusa County. And when I was in the state Senate, there was what's known as orphan counties. There were a couple of counties that didn't have representatives for one reason or another. And so I was assigned Siskiyou County, Sutter County, and Yolo County, which weren't in my district, but for a short period of time, I was doing the work over there. And now Yolo County has been in my district a couple of times. And it's interesting, you don't just forget about what you've represented. You're still familiar with those issues. People that you've worked with come to you with help, wanting help for those areas, and they know that you know about them. So Sutter County, for instance, it was a very brief time that I was assigned that area, but that's a big rice area. They grow a lot of rice there.
Yeah.
Colusa County grows rice, and I represented that. Yolo County grows rice, and I represent that today.
Okay.
So it's a natural. I've been working with the rice guys, not only on agricultural and farming and water issues, but also on trade issues for a long time. And my committee assignment, Ways and Means Committee, we have trade in our jurisdiction. So I do a lot with agricultural trade issues.
So with that being said, you said the rice, and then with Napa, of course, there's vineyards and there's wine country. And what is in the other districts? How do you manage to work through the different issues of what different counties and different cities, have, the dynamics they have, right?
Sure,
so
sure.
there's courses, a lot of it is agricultural when you're talking about grapes and rice, but there's different issues, right, that plague each one. Like, what is your strategy that you use to help serve the people in those different areas?
Well, I think it's important to know that although counties and districts are different, there are a lot of basics as well. Everybody wants a good job. Everybody wants good health care, clean air, clean water, good schools for their kids, low crime, all the stuff that you and I care about and everybody we know cares about. And then the district changes a little bit.
Yes.
So in some counties, water is a huge issue, and water is a big deal in ag land because no water, no ag, right? And the water battle has been going on for quite some time. Now, this new district under Prop 50 is going to kind of refocus the water concerns that we have. I've represented the entire north coast of California, so I've had to deal with water issues there as it relates to the fisheries. And I've represented Yolo County, Solano County, and Contra Costa County, where water and dewatering north of Delta really impacts those areas. So now it'll be focused on ag and fisheries and wetlands. If you dewater north of the Delta, what happens is you deplete all of the wetlands and the Pacific Flyway.
I wanted to stop right there because when you were talking about the water, oftentimes, one of the things I want to do is there's going to be a lot of people who see this and they're getting their information from news sources that are only there to combat your process of how you go about or the answers that you land on. One of the things I want to do is I would like you to explain when you have people who oppose the way maybe California does things when pertaining to water and nature. What are some ways? What are some things that the people might need to know about why you guys take the approach you do towards water and ag and even pollution and different things that strongholds here in California?
Well, I'm pretty district centric, so I work really hard to make sure the issues in our district are addressed and taken care of.
Okay.
And a good example, I mentioned that Colusa County is going to be in our new district, and I was up meeting with folks the other day, and there was somebody in the meeting who said, I walked into here, into this room thinking I hated you, but he said, there's a lot we have in common, and you know the issues, and I think we can work together. To which someone else in the room said, I told you, all you have to do is to talk to people once in a while.
Yeah.
And I think they're onto something.
Yeah.
I think if we had less combative attitudes and we were less divisive and we sat down and said, okay, we got some problems, here they are, how can we fix them? We'd be a lot better off.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the approach that I take. And it was interesting up in another Colusa County visit, and this was talked about at the event I was talking to you about earlier last night. Cecilia Aguilar Curry, who's our assemblywoman and the majority leader of the Senate, she too represents Colusa County. And she was telling the group last night that she was at a Family Water Alliance meeting with me in Colusa, and she said, everybody already knows him. He's been working. They remember when he represented it before, and he's been working with them ever since. And it's the same deal. It's okay. Water is important to our area. Here are the constraints that we face. How do we address that? How do we fix it? How do we make sure we have water to grow our agricultural crops, which, by the way, feeds the world?
Okay, so let's reintroduce yourself, right?
All right.
So not everybody might not be able to reach a town meeting, but this is a platform where people can click a button and find out who is Mike Thompson. So what's your origin story? Where were you born? Where do you reside now? And how did you enter into the world of politics?
Okay, it's kind of boring.
That's okay.
So I was born, I grew up, and I still live right here in the Napa Valley.
Okay.
I live in St. Helena, and as I say, I've lived there my entire life. I went to public schools, went to St. Helena High School. I graduated from St. Helena High School, and that's a different story because I didn't graduate when I should have.
Okay.
So if you want to get into the education stuff, that's another story we can tell. But I left St. Helena and I went into the service. I served with the 173rd Airborne Brigade in a tour in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. I came back and I was shot up and I was wounded, and I came back and I after I recuperated, I was assigned to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I was an instructor in the Army's Airborne School. So I taught young soldiers how to jump out of airplanes. When I finished with the service, my obligation there, I came home, came back to Napa, and I worked in the valley. I worked in the wine and the farming space in Napa. My first job was at what is today Hall's Winery in St. Helena. It was the co-op, and I worked the harvest the first year I was back at the co-op.
How was that for you?
It was good. It's hard work. It's not the same. They don't make wine the same way today. Or in the same type of facilities. We had big concrete fermenters. So all the after you crush the grapes, it was pumped into one of these big concrete vats with an open top. Okay. And my job was to come in at night and stand on the ledge. You could never do it today. OSHA would lock the doors, but you would stand on the ledge, and it was probably a foot, 2 feet wide, and you would walk around that big vat with a hose, and the hose would come from a pump that had one end plugged into the bottom of the fermenter and one end to the hose that you would carry, and you'd walk around and push down the cap, the crushed grapes that had floated to the top, and you'd submerge them so it would get in and add color and flavor to the wine. Yeah. I went on. I worked at Wilcox Tractor, and then later Lincoln Tractor, where I was. As someone pointed out the other day, I'm a tractor mechanic by trade. Okay. And I started a vineyard. My best friend and I bought some surplus property from Beringer Winery. I later, after I left tractor work, I went to work for Beringer Winery. I was their maintenance supervisor and made sure all the equipment in the vineyard worked well. And they were going through culling property. And my best friend and I bought a piece of property in Napa from them, and together we planted that to grapes. And so we had a small vineyard and ended up selling that too soon. But
if only if you knew now what you knew then.
C'est la vie. And then, as I mentioned to you, my life changed quite a bit. Something happened at Beringer Winery that really provoked me. There was a guy who worked. And I don't know if you know the history of Beringer Winery, but
I'm not totally familiar. No.
Well, it was owned by the family. It was a family-owned operation. They sold it to Nestle, and when I worked there, Nestle owned it. And one of my jobs, I had an office and a shop in Yountville, and one of my jobs was to do employee relations. So if somebody came with a problem, there was a housing for farm workers right next to my shop. And I was told, if somebody had a problem, fix it. And there was a guy Pablo Morales, he worked for the Beringers when they owned it. He came over, his truck was broken, and one of my mechanics fixed it. It was a very minor repair. It was a bad spark plug wire. And he brought me a stack of bills. He said, I took it to this auto repair shop in Napa, and they've charged me $650. So I took the bad wire and the bills, and I took it to the owner of the shop, and I said, you've taken advantage of this guy. All it was a spark plug wire, and you're changing every part, changeable. Yeah. And he looked at it, and he said, well, why do you care? He said, the guy's only a Mexican. And I'm the grandson of Italian immigrants, and I know what my grandparents and my great-grandparents went through when they first came to this country. And my first thought was, I didn't go to Vietnam, get wounded, and come back to deal with stuff like this. This is wrong. And I decided I wanted to make a change. So told you I had an education story that was interesting. After basketball season in my last year of high school, I left high school because I was smarter than the teachers and my parents.
Me too.
Yeah, you know the deal. And that's what. Then I ended up in the Army, and I'll tell you, I was in the Army about 5 minutes when I realized that my calculations were poor, that my parents and the teachers were smarter than I thought they were. So I knew I had to go back to school, and I did. I went. I was going while I was working at Beringer's to Napa College, so I transferred and went to what we refer to as the Harvard of the California State University system. That's Chico State. Chico.
I thought you were going to say Berkeley.
Oh, come on. And
so you partied a lot.
No.
Okay.
When I went to Chico, I was married with kids.
Oh, okay.
And so it was.
Yeah, well, because you were already in your career and work life.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. It wasn't like fresh out of high school.
No. So Jan and I moved up there with the kids, and my goal was to finish as quickly as I could and learn as much as I could. So I didn't have, even if I wanted to, I didn't have time to party. And I finished up, and I won a fellowship with the California State Legislature. And I went to work in the state assembly, and I worked there for almost the full fellowship time. It was a 12-month program. I did 10 or 11 months, and then the chairman of the Rules Committee hired me to run his office. And so
who was governor at the time?
George Duke-Majan.
George Duke-Majan. Okay. Yeah. So were you ever in? Because Ronald Reagan used to be governor of California at one point.
Long before my time.
That was long before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know, wasn't clear with the years and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So George Duke-Majan, I think he was in his last term, and then I worked for this guy, Jackie Spear. They succeeded him. Jackie has a very interesting story. She worked as a staffer in Congress for Leo Ryan. She went to Jonestown with Leo Ryan. She was shot and left for dead on the tarmac in Jonestown.
Okay.
And she came back. She was on the Board of Supervisors, served a number of years there, ran for the Assembly, and she asked me to be her chief of staff. And I agreed to do it for a year and ended up doing it for a little longer than that.
I remember that. I remember that, watching that in the documentary. She was the one that flew there.
Yes.
To rescue the people, right?
Correct.
And then I remember watching it on a documentary.
Yeah. She was pretty phenomenal. And then she ran for the Senate later, and I ran for the Senate out of her office. I was asked by people in our district to run. They thought that I had the background. I knew our district well. The district included Butte County, where Chico is. So I had Chico knowledge, and I had Napa Valley knowledge, and I had this great knowledge and experience working in the state legislature. So they asked me to run, and I did, and I won. And then I left when my term was up. There were term limits then. You could only serve 2 terms in the state Senate. So when my 8 years were up, my constituents asked me to run for Congress, and I did. Jackie ran for the Senate, and then after a couple of terms, she ran for Congress. So we served together in the Congress together.
I'm going to ask you a question about that. A lot of times, there's a lot of talk in politics today where you see there's politicians who seem to be aging out, and there's a lot of talk about term limits today. When did that stop? When did that stop being a rule of having 2 term limits in Senate and state Congress? Because it seems like, and I'm not saying it in a negative way, but I'm just saying people are like saying, hey, these people, they've been serving for 30 years and, we need new blood, or we need to do things. What is your take on that, on situations like that, or that type of policy?
As I said, I was elected to the state Senate in 1990. The same year, there was an initiative on the ballot that imposed term limits. I think it was 3 terms in the Assembly, 2 terms in the state Senate. And it's since been altered. So now in the state legislature, you can serve 12 years, and any mix of that you prefer. Congress has never had term limits. If you want term limits in Congress, it will take a change to the Constitution. Okay. So the
state or the
federal
Constitution,
the U.S. Constitution.
Okay.
Yeah, congressional terms are part of our United States Constitution. So if you wanted to change that, you would have to change the Constitution. I've always believed that we've had term limits. If you believe the person that represents you is not doing a good job, limit their term. Get involved and limit their term.
Vote them out.
Yeah, exactly. So you always have that type of term limit. And as far as people, I think you said timing out. That's probably a case in every aspect of employment. If it's a podcast host, a tractor mechanic, or a politician, and there's no question at some point everybody times out.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be based on an arbitrary number of years. It should be based on whether or not somebody can do the job and do it effectively. And that's what I bring to this job. Is I'm very youthful. I work really hard. I go back and forth from Washington every week. I'm in our district every weekend. I fly back. If there's a work period, I'm here. And it's not just sitting in the Napa Valley. I'm throughout our entire district. And as I've told you, our district's changed. At one point it went from Yolo County over to Lake County to Napa County to Sonoma County, then all the way up to the Oregon border. So it's about an 11-hour drive to the northern part of the district, and it hasn't slowed me down a bit. But most important, I'm effective. And I'm effective because of my experience, because of my ability, and because of my seniority. Seniority is a factor in Congress, and I'm on the Ways and Means Committee, the most important committee in the United States Congress, the only committee designated by the Constitution of the United States of America. And we have jurisdiction over tax policy, healthcare policy, trade policy, Social Security, and welfare programs.
Excuse me, I just didn't want to. But I wanted to, because you were talking about the districts changing with the redistricting, and that was your response to what happened in Texas.
Correct.
And so,
and it's temporary.
Okay, so I wanted to kind of get into the crux of that, because we see that the current administration is, I think they're trying to like have some opposition against that. And I don't know if they have any power to do that. But what does that mean? Because you said it's temporary. What does that really mean? And because oftentimes people either they don't know or they don't believe or trust that it will be temporary. So when the voters went and they voted that in, what exactly did they vote for? What are they getting with that vote in the passing of Prop 50?
Yeah, it's completely different from the way Texas did it. And Prop 50 was a response to what happened in Texas. So in Texas, the president called the Republican governor and said, "Find me 5 seats." Mm-hmm. He knows.
The same way he did in the election.
He knows that they're in trouble going into the midterms. Uh-huh. And, we've had a lot of discussion. I don't know if you want to talk about it today, but this, what he calls the big, beautiful bill, I call the big, ugly bill. Uh-huh. One thing it did is it took $1 trillion out of healthcare.
Yes.
And what they did is they put in a delayed operative date, which means they passed the bill, they signed it into law, but the cuts don't happen until after the election.
After the midterm.
And okay. I'm here to tell, I've been doing this for a while, and if you really do truly have a big, beautiful bill, you want that out there in front of the American people before the election.
Working, yes.
Yeah. So they hit it. So these cuts are going to happen. It's going to devastate healthcare. But even so, and with the Affordable Care Act tax credits that they've cut, healthcare is really facing a lot of problems right now. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have a tough time going into the midterm elections. He knew that. Mm-hmm. So he told Texas, steal 5 seats for me.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They went in the back room, they drew a map, they brought it out, they passed it, the governor signed it into law.
And the people didn't have to vote.
No.
So why was there a difference in, why couldn't Gavin Newsom just do that here the same way they did in Texas? Why do we have to vote and they couldn't?
Had that happened in California, it would have been found to be illegal. We have a provision. We voted as voters to amend our state constitution to provide for an independent, nonpartisan commission to draw the lines of all the districts. Mm-hmm. And that was passed, and we've used it. It's happened twice now. Mm-hmm. The last 2 congressional districts and the last 2 everything districts mm-hmm. have been drawn by the independent, nonpartisan commission. So what California did was they drew maps, they had hearings on the maps, and then they put it in a bill that said this is going to be the new map for the next election, and put it in put it out to the voters. So when they voted for that, they weren't just approving the map, but they were approving suspending the constitutional provision that set up the commission
for how long?
3 elections.
For 3 elections. Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. So
And it passed big. The numbers were big.
Yeah. I saw that. I was watching the day of when it took place. So with that being said, what are the changes that the Valley and what you have overseen thus far? What are the changes that we might see because of that redrawn districting? Is there any changes that might affect us negatively or positively that you would see from that?
Well, it'll be seamless here. There's no change in our district.
Okay.
Napa County remains whole. It remains within my district. We'll just add Sonoma County, as I explained, shifts a little bit. Santa Rosa will go into a district that'll include the part of Lake County that I will not represent. Mm-hmm. Then it will go over into Butte County and making another Democratic district there. I will grow Petaluma voters. I pick up half of the town of Petaluma now, which I didn't have that much before. And Solano County will be completely out of my district. As I said, Yolo County remains. I just lose the part of Davis and down to Clarksburg that's on the south side of the highway. Okay. And then I explain the new parts district, Colusa, Sutter, Placer County, Yuba County, and part of Sacramento County.
Okay. I'd like to kind of shift it from more of the California to more of a national viewpoint right now. So with the climate that's going on with the administration right now, how optimistic are you coming into 2028 when we have the next national election? How optimistic are you for the party? Because the party seemed very fragile after this last election. We've seen people like Pelosi stepping down. We've seen some shaking up going on. What do you feel? How optimistic are you going into this next election as far as having a strong enough candidate, having a platform to run on that will be successful? What do you see for that?
Well, when we first sat down, I asked you how you like living in Napa, and you said it's absolutely beautiful. And every time you drive from your home in Napa to Calistoga, it's like the first day that you made that drive.
I did say that, yeah. Okay.
Well, every Monday or Tuesday morning, I get on the plane to fly to Washington, D.C. Do you think I would leave this beautiful place if I wasn't optimistic? So I'm optimistic, and I'm also realistic. Mm-hmm. I understand how important this is. This isn't a game. Mm-hmm. This isn't, I don't run, I'm not running for re-election. I didn't run for election so I could be a congressman. I'm running for re-election so I can continue to represent our district. It is important. It's important that we have a voice in Washington that speaks for our area. It's important that we have voices in Washington that speak to protect our democracy, to protect our great country, and move us forward, providing opportunities and a level playing field for everybody in this country. And that's what motivates me.
You spoke earlier in your story about the shop owner saying he's a Mexican, so that's why he gypped him. We see there's a big, huge thing with ICE today, and what are some things or challenges that you face, and how are you guys combating it in California on the national level against what Trump is doing with ICE and
sure.
This
and I think
what I call is an attack on citizens, but.
Attack on people,
on
human beings,
yeah.
And it's been pretty atrocious what the way that they've been doing this. I've been working on 2 levels, not just in Washington, but here at home as well. I've had just a ton of business owners come to me and ask, what is it that we're supposed to do? If ICE comes to our business, what do we do? So I've hosted a series of Know Your Rights meetings mm-hmm. for business owners and for employees too, mm-hmm. and for organizations that support both business owners as well as employee groups and government folks who work in that space, and they've been real good. We've had experts come in and explain what you should do, how you should handle it if ICE comes to your door, what credentials you should demand to see, make sure that they're following the law, and that you can protect your employees. So that's been very, very helpful. At the federal level, we're doing a lot. I've worked on immigration reform for a long time, and I have legislation that I've carried for a long time that I want to tell you about, because I think it's emblematic of how big this problem is, how partisan this problem is. I have legislation that says if you're an undocumented individual and you join the United States military, you put on the U.S. military uniform and you serve our country, when your service is done, we're going to expedite your effort to become a citizen.
Okay.
I've always had bipartisan support to that. Democrats and Republicans signing up. In today's Congress, I can't get a Republican co-author. For people who put on the uniform of the United States military and served our country, put their life on the line, this should be automatic.
Yeah.
The fact that we're having to go through the legislative process to deal with this is somewhat embarrassing. But I think it highlights how divided folks are and how partisan this has become. Immigration is a red meat issue right now.
Yeah.
If you want to provoke your side of the aisle, throw that immigration red meat out there, and it will do just that. And we're suffering for it right now. We have jobs that are going unfilled because we don't have the people to fill those. And when you have big deportation efforts, as we've seen with this administration, you lose customers. So we have fewer customers to buy the things that we make, produce, grow, and sell in this country. And the other thing they're trying to do is, I think they're going way beyond the pale on just about everything. But for the DACA recipients, these are kids who were brought here at a very, very young age, and they were brought here as undocumented kids, grew up, went to our schools, played sports with our kids and grandkids, go to church with our families, shop at our stores, work in our communities. They have been given this deferment so they can stay here and continue to do what they're doing. This administration wants to deport DACA recipients. And you know this, even if you haven't studied it, you know it intuitively. There are kids, there are people who came here as kids, grew up here, have no idea
what it's like to go back.
Exactly.
To live.
They don't speak the language, they don't know the culture.
Home.
This is home. And we see it every day right here in our community. But there's a teacher shortage in California, a K-12 teacher shortage of 6,000 people. We have 6,000 DACA recipients teaching in our K-12 schools right now. So if this president and his administration get their ways, California will have a 12,000 teacher shortage K-12. It's ridiculous.
I want to ask you this. So there's what I feel like is there's this war of ideology that's happening right now. Is the Republican Party, is this who they've been all along, or had they just really just under Trump? Is this what they really wanted to be the whole time, or has Trump, do you feel like he's kind of just taken over?
Yeah, I don't know that.
And there's fear, there's fear to combat his idea.
I don't know that my answer speaks to every individual Republican colleague of mine. And in full disclosure, I work with a lot of the Republicans to do things for our district and our country, and have been very successful in doing that. And I can give you a long list of examples.
Well, under other administrations, you never seen the type of rhetoric or this type of action taken. So that's kind of not to say them as individuals, but there seems to be under this particular administration, the way he's going about it is just kind of unprecedented. So I'm just wondering how you view that, or what your thought about that.
Yeah, and there are a large percentage of the Republicans fall into the category that you're describing. They're afraid to do what I believe they think is right. and that's a tragic deal. Well, you saw it. One of the most partisan people in the House of Representatives, Marjorie Taylor Greene, resigned because of the bullying from this president and the fact that because she differed with him on something, he attacked her. He literally put a target on her. She's been getting death threats because of this. And it's a problem. You need to be able to go against your party leaders to do what's right for your district or what you believe is right for the country and not be demonized.
So
I voted to override a Bill Clinton veto. And that's like a bunch of my colleagues said, "Oh, you can't do that." I said, "What do you mean I can't do it? It hurts my district."
Yeah.
They said, "You can't go against our president." I said, "Well, look at the board. That's a green light up there next to my name. I did go against this president. Bill Clinton didn't say a word to me. That's just not the way it works in normal politics with thoughtful, caring individuals."
So a lot of sentiment that I work in a barbershop. I talk to a lot of men every day. Sometimes women, moms will bring their kids in, and I would say, but most of the political conversations are with men. One of the things that I hear on a constant basis is that the party, what is the game plan outside of just saying Trump is bad? Like, what is the new game? What is the game plan to implement to win back? The coming in this next election, the midterms, and even to the next election. Like,
so what do you tell them?
What do I tell them?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm asking. Well, I think that's a sentiment of asking, well, what is it? Because oftentimes people feel like, well, what are we doing? What's the game plan? What are our values? It seems like the other side is very strong on where they stand on multiple issues, but ours is always like just opposing, but not really implementing new vision, new vision. So what would you say to that?
I hear you. I talk to my barber all the time, and
not every conversation is like that.
But I think you know where I'm going with this because we talked about it before. Since I met my wife, I've not paid for a haircut. She's
your barber.
My wife cuts my hair and has for the entire time.
Well, you got to come to Old Town Barbershop, man. We'll take care of you.
But she's very opinionated, and I hear the same concerns. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
But you're absolutely correct, and there's some reason for that right now. The anxiety. Number one, we're at a little bit of a loss. We don't have someone who's recognized across the board as the party leader. And in the past, that's always been the case. There's been a standard bearer. We've had a president. We've had a speaker. We've had somebody who's identified as that. But we've had a major change in leadership in the House. We've got a brand new Democratic leader in the House, a brand new whip in the House, and a brand new caucus chair in the House. So they're new, doing great work, but they're not a household name that you hear every day. The other thing that I believe, and this is me. This isn't some political scientist out there doing papers on this. But Democrats really believe in the institution of representative government. We believe that we need a government that's active, that creates a level playing field, that makes sure that people have the opportunities that we believe that should be out there. So by nature, we get kind of in the weeds on this stuff. Whereas the other side, they're basically less government. What did Grover Norquist said? We don't want to do away with the government. We just want to make it small enough we can drown it in the toilet bowl. And so when that's your philosophy on government, it's just really easy to just be a no on everything or a yes on everything without trying to figure out what's the best way forward. And as I said, getting into the weeds. But there's a lot that's going on right now from the Democratic side of the aisle. First and foremost has been trying trying to combat some of the things that has happened under this president and this Republican majority. I mentioned the big ugly bill earlier, and I talked about taking $1 trillion out of health care. That's going to devastate us. We're going to have hospitals and clinics closed. We're going to have rest homes closed. There won't be Medicaid funded programs for diversion programs that keep people in a healthcare environment rather than in a maybe criminal justice or hospitalized environment. That's going to cost us more money. The other thing that they did was they just did a massive tax cuts for the richest people in the United States of America. So if you're making $1 million a year, you're going to get a tax cut of about $239 a day.
Wow.
And I would say, I'll go out on a limb here. I would say if you're making $1 million a year, you probably don't need any tax cut in that environment. You're probably in pretty good shape. If you're making $54,000 a year, you're going to get a 62 cent a day tax cut. This is just the wrong way to deal with tax policy in this country. And on top of that, it added $5 trillion to our national debt. They borrowed $5 trillion in order to do this. And that's on top of all the cuts they made in the programs that everyday Americans need. So we're battling that. We have our own programs, our own initiatives that we're putting out there. I have one myself. I've been asked by the Democratic leadership in our party to do an affordability initiative dealing on taxes. And my affordability measure deals with affordable housing, making sure first-time home buyers get the tax help they need to be able to buy a home. There's going to be rental affordability, tax help for people who are renters. There's going to be food affordability because of these crazy tariff wars that this president has started has cost the price of everything to go through the roof. So we're going to deal with that. Student loans. We're going to cap the interest rate on student loan to 5% and cap the refinancing rate on student loans to 5%. Energy. I did in the Inflation Reduction Bill that was passed in the last Congress, signed by President Biden. There was a component of that bill called the Green Act. It was a tax component that dealt with renewable energy. That was my legislation. And it lowered utility costs. Not for everybody. I know people are going to see this. My bill's high. Yeah, your bill's high, but this is the first step, and it's lowering it. But as important, it reshored about $300 million worth of renewable energy manufacturing to the United States of America, and created hundreds of thousands of jobs here. As I said, lowered utility costs, put us in the lead in regard to renewable energy development. And now, with the big ugly bill, they repealed much of what was in my bill, and now China is in the lead. And this is not where we need to be going. Yeah. We're going to pay, the estimate is $672 more in utility costs because the renewable energy bill of mine was repealed. And we're going to see lost projects. And right here in the Valley, I have two great examples. Calistoga, which has always been hit with these public safety power shutoffs. They needed...
Because of the fires and a lot of the
fires. Yeah. And whenever it's windy, they come in proactively and shut this. So they were able to qualify on my legislation to build a microgrid to take care of that. And it's working well. I think they got $28 million in tax provisions to do that. Similarly, St. Helena School District had a program to put solar energy on every one of their school sites. And it was signed, sealed, and delivered. And when this president signed the bill revoking the solar provisions that I put into law, it literally, and
Yeah.
I'll go out. I'm going to pun you here. It literally pulled the plug on this project. So those are the types of things that we're working on now. Healthcare is another one because. And that's been necessitated by the irresponsible actions that this administration and this Congress took in cutting health care. I hear from healthcare providers in our district every day how the hospital doors are threatening to. They're at risk of closing the doors.
Yeah.
They tell me one of two things happens: either they close the doors, or they lay people off. So even if you have the best insurance in the world or a pocket full of money, you can buy whatever health care you want. If you get taken to a hospital that's still open, you better hope when you get there the person you need to save your life isn't the person they laid off so they could keep the doors open.
Yeah. My wife's in healthcare, and I hear a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that goes on, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We've dealt with some heavy stuff. Let's lighten it up.
All right, let's lighten it up.
So, what's your favorite football team? Are you a sports guy?
I am.
Who's your team?
49ers.
49ers? Okay.
Yeah.
Basketball.
Warriors.
All right. Have you seen Steph Curry play up close?
I've seen him. I know him.
We got to tell him to come on the podcast.
Absolutely.
So you're a sports guy.
I once asked him at a game in Washington, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to go down to not the locker room but outside the locker room, and he had done some amazing things on the court and watching them play the Washington team, and one in particular where I have no idea how he didn't fall, let alone maintain his balance and throw the ball up. And he was looking the other way. One arm was one place, one leg was someplace else, and he just seemed to throw it.
He does
up
what Curry does. Yeah.
I said, "How did you do that?" He goes, "I don't know." He says, "Sometimes I just throw it up and it goes in."
Yeah,
so he's an amazing guy.
He is. So in your lifespan, who do you feel like is the greatest athlete that you've seen?
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays. Okay. Willie Mays. The Say Hey Kid.
Say Hey Kid.
All right.
Yeah.
That's what my dad would say.
Well,
so you think he was better than Barry Bonds?
Well, it's hard to say that. And I know Barry Bonds and I knew Willie Mays, but two different people. I can tell you this. The last time I saw Willie was at the White House. And he turned to me, and the Giants were there. They had won a World Series, and he turned to me. He says, "Can you get me out of here?" And I said, "Sure." So we were leaving, and we were walking out, and he told me, he said, "You got to help." I said, "Help what?" He goes, "Barry needs to be in the Hall of Fame." And he says, "You got to help me do that."
Can I say something?
So, but the idea that, the Say Hey Kid, the greatest guy to ever play in the outfield of any team, just an unbelievable man, human being, and here he's talking to somebody who he thinks can help do something, and what's he asked for? Asked me to help somebody else.
Help somebody else. Yeah. For me, I just lost a lot of love for baseball after the way they've done Barry Bonds. It's hard for me to just appreciate the sport because that was my favorite sport growing up.
Yeah. What happened yesterday? He didn't make the. Didn't,
okay. I didn't even know. Yeah. But that was my favorite sport growing up, and even into my adult years in the World Series, and then the way the sports writers, and I just kind of I have a whole nother take about that. Yeah. But we kind of had an off-air conversation. And I asked you about, there's this new documentary out and they're talking about UFOs. And I know there's Rubio and all those guys in it. And I said, well, do you believe in UFOs? And so this is another, probably after sports, this is probably another conversation we have in the barbershop all day.
And what do most people say in the barbershop?
You know what? I think more people believe in them than not, as far as what I hear, right? I've always erred on the side of no, but I think that this last one that I saw really made me believe, but it made me more convinced than ever. And so, this is not an official answer to go on the books. This is really just a lighten them up. What do you think? Do you believe in them or not?
Well, as I told you, number one, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but nothing surprises me anymore. And I told you the story about my cousin when we were a lot younger, who told me that a lighted object, when he was driving tractor up in Rutherford, baling hay, a lighted object came down. He was doing it at night, hovered in front of his tractor, and then took off quickly. And as I mentioned, this guy's one of the straight arrowless persons that I know, and I would die if I learned that he ever even thought about doing drugs. So yeah. I don't think it was it was any of that. But most important, from my view, as I said, I think it's pretty ridiculous and pretty elitist if we think that we are the only people, the best people, and know everything about every place. It's a big universe, and I don't think anything would surprise me.
Well, Congressman, I want to thank you for coming today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for sitting down. And is there anything that you would just final words you want to leave with the people, your thoughts on anything, just whatever you feel?
Well, there was about 400 things that we talked about on policy matters that I would like to continue to talk about. And because, that's what it's all about. It's about the policy. It's about delivering. It's about having the ability, the wherewithal, and the positioning to be able to deliver for our district and our country. So we should come back and do another round sometime.
Let's do it. Well, good luck on your election. Good luck
on
your run.
Much.
And to the rest of your day. Thank you guys for sitting here with us. Congressman Mike Thompson, your host, Jeremy Jackson. Meet Me in Napa podcast. We're going to bring some more exciting guests. He's going to get Steph Curry on it. Tell Steph Curry to come on.
Steph, come on the show.
Peace. We'll see you next time.
Is that him at the door?
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Thank you.